Welcome to camper van conversion in bite-sized chunks. If you happen to have come across this page through some random link, you might want to click on the link in the top right hand corner to take you back to the introduction to tell you a little bit more about these videos and how you can get the best out of them.
So first thing I need to do is mark it out on the floor. 1200 millimeters by 610, nice and cozy. Basically that square, the biggest square you can see drawn out there is basically where your feet's going to go when you're having a shower. The square near the back of the van is where the loo's going to sit. It widens out, of course, as it goes over the wheel arch, which will form a shelf. And after marking it out, I'm just going to build the mould up around the side of the van so everything hugs nice and tight. The idea is there's going to be very little wasted space. That's why I wanted to build the mould off the side of the van. I'm using plain white melamine as the material for the mould, and you'll see it later on. There's a plumb line down here. I've all sorts of tricks just to get everything in the right position. And when I was setting the floor, I set the floor. You'll see it later on, but I want to tell you now. So it slopes from left. So as you look in the picture, it slopes from right to left, and then from front to back. So any water will then roll into one place in the corner near the back, where I'll eventually have a drain going out through the floor of the van, so the shower water drains out. So you can see me building up now, hugging that side of the van. There's the floor of the mould sloping as I described, and I'm just building it up. I'm not going to worry about that wheel arch, that forms a shelf, you can see there. So all the fixings and bracings are on the inside because you're going to be moulding up on the outside. Don't worry too much about the quality of the joints because you're going to be rounding those and filling them so you've got a nice moulding surface. Just a case of chucking it together. So there is one problem doing this route. You will end up with a waterproof lightweight box that's the basis of your EnSuite. It'll be much lighter than building a wooden box inside the van, and it will probably take up a little bit less space because you can hug the side of the van like I'm doing there. The problem is though, you've got to laminate and it's mucky, so I will be moving this into a workshop shortly, and you'll see that later on. But if you haven't got a workshop, then really you're going to be doing it the traditional route that van converters do, which is to build a box inside the van and then lining it out. So I didn't say earlier on, but I think it's obvious. The reason why you want that smooth surface on the outside is so when you laminate onto it and make your glass fibre box, smooth surface of the product is actually on the inside, in other words the inside of your EnSuite unit that you can then kit out. Right, swing it around, lay it down, get it out, finish it off. It's my dear old dad, 83 years old and still got full toolkit. It was really great working with him actually. It was slightly going back 30 years doing a project with my dad. But my van's actually at his place, he's got a bit of space there, whereas I haven't. And yeah, amazing bloke, he can still swing a 25 kilo bag of cement. So one important thing then is all the fixings, screws, brackets, bracings must be on the inside, because after you put your fiberglass on, you're going to be crawling back up inside, taking them all out, so the mould itself collapses inwards, leaving you with your product. I think you saw me put some screws on the outside, they were just temporary. Okay, so we're down in the workshop and we're starting to round those edges off, ready to make them nice and smooth to lay up the fiberglass. Bit of sanding there to be done, filler in there, making it nice and smooth, ready to lay up, and that's basically it. There it is. The mould it's upside down, and I'm just getting it ready to lay up on, which you can see in the next video.
Okay, so a bit of an interjection at that point. So that's the mould, a male mould. You'll laminate it on the outside, and there'll be a bunch of you out there saying, well yeah, okay, that's a piece of cake, you're just getting a bunch of furniture board, hacking it together, rounding off, filling in the corners, that's the easy part, but now you want to do the laminating, which is the tricky part. Well, I would say the mould is the hard part. Yeah, the laminating, it's sticky, it's smelly, it's horrible, bit of a messy job. But actually it's easier, I would say, than making the plug, sorry, the mould that you've just seen. So if you're sort of thinking, I don't know if I'm going to go this route or not, then I would say if you can do that bit, you can do the next bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through how to do a bit of laminating. But I would say go online, get some tips. You'll get the expert online, of course, who'll tell you exactly how it should be done, whereas I'm the pragmatic sort of find the right way. There's some key rules. You don't want air in your laminate, particularly against the gel coat, otherwise it'll pinprick, it'll pop. So you've got to get your air out, you've got to get the mixes right, but it's nothing, it really isn't rocket science. Just going back to the mould again, because I looked at that footage to make it absolutely clear, I hope it's clear. I'm building upside down, so the top part you're seeing on that mould is the bit you'll eventually be standing on, the tray, and you're making the whole thing, and what you're not doing, of course, is laminating the roof, what will be the roof of the pod, because that's open, and reason for that is, of course, you've got to be able to get inside. When it's all finished, you lay it down, you get inside, and you break down all the bits of the mould. Make it. You may recall we've made it collapsible, so you can get all the bits of wood out, leaving you with just the pod, just the fiberglass moulding. So, as I said, to me, that was the hard part. Fiberglass work, it's smelly, it's horrible, you've got rubber gloves, you've got sort of protective overalls, all that sort of nonsense, but actually it's not so bad. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take you through some clips and some pictures of me building up the fiberglass layers on that mould. I'm going to start off with just a little bit of offline stuff, because I noticed afterwards I had done it, and that'll show you how to prepare your mould. You've got to put a release agent on it. So I'm doing it offline on just a piece of wood, so you can see how you do that. And you know, hopefully at the end of it all you'll say, well, hell, let's have a go. The advantage is it's very light, and at the end of it you're going to see. I'll show you a picture of how I moved it. It's very thin, so I use. Let's talk about the layout now. I use the bulk of it, 3 layers of 600 GSM, that's grams per square metre glass, chop strand mat. Okay, now that detail's in the resource library. That builds up to about a 2 mil, that's all 2 mil. However, I reinforce it in some areas. The bit that you stand on, which is the top of the mould, which will be your tray that you stand on, your shower tray, I made that double, I doubled that, and you'll see this later on, actually between the layers I sandwiched a piece of 12 mil ply it was, so I got a really firm base to stand on. I tell a lie, it was 4 mil ply. So I got a sandwich construction. In addition, the bit that will go over on my design, this is over the wheel arch, which will form a shelf inside the bathroom. You probably would have seen that on the design overview. It's where I've got a water bottle rack. That I also thickened up. I think I had about 5 or 6 layers of this glass, so that was nice and firm. But the rest of it is quite springy, but it doesn't matter, because you're going to either attach furniture board to it, or you're going to have it against the wall of your van, and it doesn't matter, because it's fixed to the van. So it doesn't matter that it's a little bit flimsy, because actually when you finish it, it's not. So I don't know if I sold that well enough, but you know, there's other ways of doing these things, but the whole idea of this video was just to give people some ideas on how I did it, just in case it could be translated into your layout. So let's have a look at how we do fiberglassing. So to form the release we need a particular sort of wax called mould release wax. It's about American mould there, I think, and it's designed for this purpose. Right, so that's just a little bit of furniture board there that I'm going to use to demonstrate how to do this. In fact, that's what I used to build the whole mould with. I use white melamine furniture board. I use white because it's cheap. But so first of all, you want to get all the dust off. You can actually buy tack rags, which are basically wax impregnated cloths that pick up any dust as you wipe them. And the professional boat builders will use this, but I didn't for my project. So then you just apply this wax, just rubbing in onto the surface. Now you need to be particularly careful where you've got the joins in your mould and you've rounded them off, you put filler in and sand them down, because they're going to be a bit porous. So make sure you get plenty of wax in those slots. You then need to let the wax harden or haze off before you polish it, and the instructions will be on the tin, but mine was 15 minutes at ambient room temperature of 15 degrees or more. Once it's hardened off, you can then buff it, as I'm doing there, and you just like you're polishing a table. It's not too dissimilar to waxing a traditional table. Once the wax is hazed off, you can then go over and buff it up to make it shiny. And you need to do that at least 3 times on a new mould. In fact, I think I've done it 5 times on the join where I put filler in, just to make absolutely sure. Okay, but now you've got your insurance policy, because you do not want this to stick. And you're going to use a substance called PVA. And if you know any boat builders, they'll be horrified when they know you're using this, because this is, in their world, a bodge job. PVA is actually the same stuff that wood glue is made of, only it's a lot thinner. It's generally got a blue dye to it to help you see where you put it on. And you just paint this on. Now, the thing is, this will not give you a really shiny mould surface that boat builders require on their moulds, which is why they don't use it. They just rely solely on very good application of wax. But in our application, certainly if you can do as I did and cover the inside of your mould with decorative strips of, I used ceiling panel strips, as you saw earlier on. It doesn't matter if the gel finish, surface finish, isn't that shiny. But you might want to go that route, entirely up to you. The key thing is you've got to get release. You do not want a sticker, otherwise it's going to give you problems. So plenty of wax, do it well, spend time on that. Plenty of PVA as well, I think, particularly where you've got those joins in the mould and it's a bit porous. So that just dries off overnight and you can get ready to gel on it. And what you'll have on your finished product is traces of this, but it just washes away because PVA is water soluble. So that's the preparation, and you need to get the preparation right. So now we're ready to start laminating. First of all, the gel coat. That there is a catalyst dispenser bottle. You can't see it's got graduations, but you need about 2%. You can be a little bit flexible. A 1% mix will be deemed slow. A 3% mix will be deemed fast. Don't go any more than that. I'd keep it slow, or keep it normal, and mix up small amounts at a time. That way it's not going to go off on you. You've got about sort of 20 to 30 minute working time at 2%. Give it a very good stir, then decant it into something else that you're going to use to apply. That way, if you've got any unmixed bits on the side of the bucket, you don't end up getting it on the job. I've scooped some into a cut-off milk container there and just rolling it on. You can see the PVA there, that blue PVA on the mould. And just give a very good thick coverage. It will run a little bit, but then it will go thick stropic and adhere, so you haven't got to worry about that. If need be, you can put a second coat on. I think only a few places I needed to put a second coat on because I got a really good finish. And that's the other beauty about the PVA. If you're using a white surface mould, you can tell when you've got good coverage or not. You can see I've got all the safety crap on. This stuff is, it does burn your hand a little, it does me. It's styrene based, but and plenty of ventilation because it doesn't smell good. But this is not, you can see this is just not rocket science. You're not making an elegant job, you're just rolling this stuff on. Those rolls, by the way, are in the resource library where you get it from. It's the same place I got my resin, although there's plenty of places out there that sell resin. You can Google search it, but I got mine at a place in Portsmouth. So just roll it on and cover the entire mould. The thing is, with gel coat, you don't want it to go off you've got to let it go off, tack off, but it can't be tacked off too much, otherwise your subsequent layer of glass fibre may fail to stick to it. So you want to be able to do it so when you rub your hand on it, it feels hard, but it squeaks a little. So it's just trying to sort of stop your hand from your finger from rubbing on it. And once you've got that sort of feel, squeaky feel, and that will be something like 3 or 4 hours at 15 degrees after you put on your gel coat. So you need to plan your day so you can be ready to get your gel coat and the first layer on. Once your first layer of glass is on, time is not so critical. So get a layer of polyester resin on, clean bucket, different roller there, bigger roller, it's falling apart on me. Again, I always mix up small quantities, 1 or 2 kilos at a time. Once you get a bit more confident, you might want to do more, particularly on your second layer. But what you want to do is get the resin onto the whole of that gel coat surface, so you can get a layer of glass on. And I was always putting on the glass fibre in small pieces as well, sort of 1.5 square metres.
When you put it on, it will just stick to the resin that you've put on the mould. So I'm sort of getting another. Looks like I've got one layer of glass on there already, at least one layer, and now I'm putting resin on there, ready to put the second layer on. Here we go. That's it. Look at the camera. Notice the glasses. It's not nice if it splashes in your eye. And that will just stick. You just rub it on. That was because you put resin on it. It will stick to the resin. You haven't got any worry about it falling off. Go back and get some resin and really saturate that cloth. When you overlap the glass, make sure you've got a good 40mm overlap so that you haven't got any weak points on there. And that's basically it. It's built up. And there you go, there it is inside my van. You can see I've cut the door out of it there, and you can just about see inside the white gel coat surface. And you see how it's just hugging the van nice and tight. Looking at the back now, I've got a temporary piece of furniture board on. That's not the finished product, but I think I just put it on to try something out. I've already put a cutout in there for the loo and a couple of holes for the pipes. And that's how it goes. Now I needed to raise it off the floor slightly, and you can see there I raised it off the floor. So I just put it on pillars, and I took the opportunity when I did that to increase the angle of the floor so that it drains into that corner, because I subsequently thought I hadn't done enough when I built the mould. So just be aware that you need to sort of make sure you've got enough rake on that. Because I had to lift it off the ground, I just took that opportunity to put a bit more of a rake on there so it drains into that bottom corner. Okay, to finish off then, I just want to show you this. This is how I got it from my workshop to to my van. It's on top of my wife's little Suzuki Ignis, and it shows you how light it is. My dad and I just flipped it up on there. It's very, very light structure. There's no problem with the car. It's got built-in rails on that little tiny runaround she's got, and we just dragged it over, as I only had about 5 miles to go, dragged it over and just lifted it into the van. So it's a very lightweight structure, waterproof. You will need to find a way of putting a ceiling on the finished product. I just had a piece of ply which I covered in the same material as I'd done the walls with. So there you go. Not rocket science. It might be worth just you getting a few more tips online if you've never done any resining before. But really, it's the hardest part I think is making the mould.